If you've given your heart to the series, you're in the right place. However, remember that what you observed on the screen wasn't invariably the truth. Let's reveal together where actuality concludes and fabrication commences. Your reaction to part 1 was astonishing.
So, here's part 2 as assured. Today, let's bring to light the authenticity about the Boleyn family and distinguish reality from the sequence's fiction. If you appreciate this content, your likes would mean a great deal. So let's commence with Anna Boleyn's mother, Elizabeth Boleyn née Howard. In the sequence, she simply doesn't materialize at all, not even once. Yet, in real life, she was quite intimate with Anne and was present at numerous pivotal occasions in her daughter's life and at court in general. To commence with, she likely acted as a lady-in-waiting to Catherine of Aragon and was present at Catherine's coronation with Henry, just as she later attended Anne's coronation. She furthermore accompanied her daughter Anne and King Henry VIII in 1529, when they went to scrutinize York Place after the king proclaimed it would be renamed Whitehall. She even resided there with Anne before Anne became queen.
By the way, there's another inaccuracy in the sequence related to Whitehall. It's displayed as Henry VII's residence from the very commencement, but in actuality, he didn't acquire it until Cardinal Wolsey's downfall.
And love for her mother came through distinctly in the words she expressed to Sir William Kingston upon arriving at the Tower after her detention on May 2nd, 1536. "Oh, my mother, you will die of sorrow." So it seems Anne was quite intimate with her mother, closer in actuality than to her sister, Mary. Omitting such a significant female figure from the sequence strikes me as a rather incautious determination. Now let's converse about Anne's father, Thomas Boleyn. In this sequence, he's arguably portrayed as one of the principal villains, preoccupied only with compelling his daughters into the king's bed. But what if I illustrate to you another side of him and substantiate that much of this image is shaped by films and television, while the real Thomas Boleyn was a very triumphant courtier long before Mary ever shared the king's bed?
I don't want to make empty assertions, so here are just a handful of his career highlights. He accompanied Margaret Tudor to Scotland for her wedding, which demonstrates Henry VII, Henry VI's father, trusted him.
Henry VIII himself designated him Keeper of the Foreign Exchange in Calais in 1509 and knighted him. He was furthermore dispatched on a diplomatic mission to the court of Margaret of Austria. By the early 1520s, Thomas was already one of the most respected courtiers at Henry's court. He possessed more than 24 estates, served as treasurer of the household, and carried out numerous important diplomatic assignments. You might articulate, serving at court is one thing, but having your daughter become Queen of England is quite another. Yes, a new heir to the king was definitely a social elevator for the whole family, but even without it, Thomas was doing quite well.
Here's another argument against the idea that Thomas was simply a scheming panda. He actively opposed Anne's marriage to Henry VIII. In 1533, Imperial Ambassador Eustace Chapuis documented that Thomas Boleyn attempted to dissuade Henry from marrying Anne. Chapuis furthermore wrote that Anne was furious with both her father and her uncle, the Duke of Norfolk, for opposing the match. In exploring the real character of Thomas, it's important to articulate that he was an enlightened man, what we might now call open-minded.
He valued education, not only for his son, but also for his daughters, which was quite rare at the time. Unlike Jane Seymour, who could barely write, Thomas ensured that Anne and Mary received an excellent education, preparing them for life at highly competitive European courts.
His household was a center of intellectual life, and he supported some of the brightest minds of his era. One of the main criticisms of Thomas is that he abandoned Anne and George during their arrest and execution in 1536.
But it must be articulated that by then he really couldn't help them, though it seems he didn't actually try very hard either. For example, there's a surviving letter from the father of Thomas Wyatt, who was furthermore imprisoned at that time in the Tower, pleading for his son's pardon. We have no evidence of any such letter or public plea from Thomas Boleyn. Perhaps Thomas knew Henry too well and realized there was no chance. By the way, that's another error in the series.
It suggests that Thomas himself was imprisoned in the Tower at the same time. He wasn't. Another widespread misconception involves Anne Boleyn supposedly witnessing her brother's execution from her window. In reality, the rooms she occupied at the time faced the opposite direction.
Furthermore, detailed records exist regarding Anne's final days of confinement in the Tower of London, and any such observation of the execution would almost certainly have been documented. The absence of such records strongly suggests that she did not witness the event.
Moreover, Thomas Boleyn continued his service to Henry VIII until his death in 1539 and remained active at court. Considering his actions and circumstances, was he truly a villain or merely another casualty of Henry VIII's reign?
This is a question that invites further consideration. The narrative surrounding Thomas Boleyn is complex, demanding a nuanced understanding beyond simple labels of good or evil, villain or victim. The political landscape of the time and the pressures exerted by powerful figures like Henry VIII make it difficult to assess individual motivations and actions with certainty. Therefore, a comprehensive analysis requires careful consideration of the historical context and the available evidence to form a well-informed opinion. Turning our attention to Anne's brother, George Boleyn, his sexual orientation, as depicted in the Tudors, can be confidently regarded as another fabrication by the show's writers. The series portrays him as bisexual, engaging in relationships with both men and women. However, in reality, there were no rumors or suggestions regarding George's sexual orientation, neither during his life nor after his death.
None of the men accused alongside Anne were charged with sodomy, which would have been a likely accusation if there were any grounds to suspect homosexual activity. The notion of his homosexuality originated in an article by historian Rothiaker Warraker in the 1980s. Her theory was based on the fact that George once presented Mark Smeaton with a book that satirized the institution of marriage. This single act was interpreted as evidence of a broader sexual orientation, a conclusion that lacked substantial historical support. The series' portrayal of George's sexuality serves as a reminder of the artistic license taken in historical dramas, where creative liberties are often employed to enhance the narrative or cater to modern sensibilities. While these portrayals can be entertaining, they should be approached with a critical eye, recognizing the distinction between historical fact and fictional embellishment. Regarding his Vijay Begum relationship with his wife, and specifically the disturbing scene of their wedding night as portrayed in the series, there is another chronological inaccuracy. The Tudors depicts George Boleyn marrying when Anne is already queen, around 1535. In reality, George had been married since approximately 1525. Historical records offered limited insights into the true nature of their relationship. However, some historians, notably Alison Weir, propose that it was Jane who testified that her husband had committed incest with his sister. Furthermore, she allegedly shared highly sensitive and likely fabricated details with the investigators.
While definitive conclusions are elusive, it is reasonable to assume that their marriage was probably not a particularly happy one. The complexities of their relationship and the lack of concrete evidence leave room for interpretation, but the available information suggests a strained and potentially volatile dynamic. The challenges inherent in reconstructing historical relationships, especially in the absence of personal accounts and intimate details, underscore the limitations of our understanding of the past.
It is essential to acknowledge the gaps in our knowledge and avoid making definitive pronouncements based on speculation or conjecture. Despite his limited screen time in the Tudors, George Boleyn was, in fact, a remarkable figure of his time.
He was highly regarded at the royal court and in foreign courts as well. George Boleyn followed in his father's footsteps, becoming a diplomat and undertaking several significant missions to France.
Official records from one of his trips to France describe him as someone the king especially loves and trusts. Henry also tasked George Boleyn with advocating for royal supremacy over the church and parliament. In 1533, George had the highest attendance record of any lord in parliament, demonstrating his commitment to his duties. George was also a passionate reformer, a sentiment reflected in the speech he delivered before his execution. This speech was significantly condensed in the series to just 2 lines. He was a poet, a notable patron of the arts, and overall an exceptional individual, much like the rest of the Boleyn family. His diverse talents and accomplishments underscore his significance beyond his familial connections, solidifying his place as a prominent figure in the political and cultural landscape of the era. It is essential to recognize the contributions and complexities of historical figures like George Boleyn, rather than reducing them to mere supporting characters in the lives of more famous individuals. Lastly, we come to Mary, Anne's sister, who's arguably the most intriguing member of the family. In the series, she's portrayed as a promiscuous woman, a reputation that stems from both the show's producers and the Catholic propaganda of the time. Anne was deeply disliked in the Catholic world for various reasons, and some of that negative sentiment extended to her sister as well. Mary was rumored to have had an affair with the King of France. The series includes a line where Francis points Mary out to Henry, referring to her as his English mare he likes to ride. However, there are only 3 pieces of evidence that might allude to Mary Boleyn's alleged sexual escapades in France. The first is a statement from a Catholic bishop who claimed that Francis told him Mary was a great and infamous. The other 2 sources are books, but they actually mention Anne in that context, not Mary. Therefore, the series' depiction of Mary in this regard is certainly exaggerated. The reliance on hearsay, rumor, and politically motivated propaganda to construct a narrative about Mary's sexuality highlights the challenges of separating fact from fiction when examining historical figures. It is essential to approach such claims with skepticism and consider the potential biases of the sources. This brings us to the question of her relationship with Henry VIII. They did, in fact, have an affair.
We know this because when Henry VIII sought to marry Anne Boleyn, he petitioned for a dispensation to remove the obstacle of affinity arising from illicit intercourse in any degree, even the first. Historians continue to debate the duration of the affair. So while there is undoubtedly a stain on Mary's reputation, it is simply not as significant as the way she is portrayed in the series. The historical record provides evidence of a relationship between Mary and Henry, but the details and extent of that relationship remain uncertain.
It is important to distinguish between confirmed facts and speculative interpretations when evaluating the historical accounts.
The tendency to sensationalize historical events, particularly those involving romance and scandal, can distort the truth and create a misleading impression of the past. Maintaining a balanced and critical perspective is essential when navigating the complexities of historical narratives.
In fact, Mary remains a rather mysterious figure, as considerably less information about her has survived compared to other members of the family. A limited historical record surrounding Mary Boleyn underscores the challenges of reconstructing the lives of individuals who were not at the center of power and influence.
The scarcity of sources can lead to gaps in our understanding and make it difficult to form a complete and accurate picture of their lives and experiences.
It is important to acknowledge the limitations of our knowledge and avoid making definitive pronouncements based on incomplete information. The motion picture, The Other Boleyn Girl, took the greatest amount of creative license with her narrative, conflating concepts such as a child by Henry, the guardianship of Elizabeth following Anne's demise, and numerous other elements.
Therefore, if you are interested in me creating a comparable video concerning that specific cinematic interpretation, please indicate your preference in the comment section below. Furthermore, please share your perspectives on the entirety of the Boleyn lineage. Were they all solely driven by a thirst for authority, ambitious figures within the court, or were they merely individuals endeavoring to endure to the best of their abilities amidst the intricate and challenging environment of the Tudor court, engaging in their own iteration of a political struggle and experiencing its inherent victories and defeats?
The dynamics of power, influence, and survival were ever present, shaping their actions and destinies within the royal sphere. Their motivations, whether driven by personal ambition or a desire to secure their family's standing, played a significant role in the unfolding events of the era. The court was a stage upon which fortunes could be made or lost, and the Boleyns, like many others, navigated its complexities with varying degrees of success.
The historical accounts offer glimpses into their lives, yet the true extent of their motivations and the internal struggles they faced remain subjects of ongoing interpretation and debate. The allure of the throne and the potential for advancement undoubtedly influenced their choices, but the underlying human element, with its inherent complexities and vulnerabilities, should not be overlooked.
Their story serves as a reminder of the ever-present interplay between personal aspirations and the broader political landscape in which they operated. The choices they made, the alliances they forged, and the risks they took ultimately shaped their legacy and contributed to the rich tapestry of historical events that continue to fascinate and intrigue us today.
The Boleyns' rise and fall serve as a cautionary tale, illustrating the precarious nature of power and the unpredictable consequences that can arise from navigating the treacherous currents of courtly life. Their story is a testament to the enduring human drama that unfolds when ambition, love, and political intrigue collide, leaving an indelible mark on the historical record.
The echoes of their actions continue to resonate through the ages, prompting us to reflect on the timeless themes of power, ambition, and the enduring human spirit.
The study of their lives provides valuable insights into the complexities of the Tudor era and the challenges faced by those who sought to make their mark on history. Their legacy is one of both triumph and tragedy, a reminder of the enduring human capacity for both greatness and folly. The Boleyn story is a complex and multifaceted one, deserving of careful consideration and thoughtful analysis.
It is a story that continues to captivate and inspire, prompting us to delve deeper into the past and to grapple with the enduring questions of human nature and the pursuit of power. Their tale is a reminder that history is not simply a collection of facts and dates, but a living, breathing narrative that continues to shape our understanding of the world.